Blessings in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This is Pastor Caleb McGregor from Port Edwards United Methodist Church. This video is titled Youth and Adult Confirmation / Baptism Membership at Port Edwards United Methodist Church. And as the title says, this is for youth, young adults, and adults who are looking at being confirmed or being baptized or having a profession of faith in order to be received into membership, specifically here at Port Edwards United Methodist Church.
Provision number 1. Port Edwards United Methodist Church does not discriminate. Our church's official statement of inclusion reads as follows. We affirm that God has poured out the Holy Spirit on all people, and that all people are of sacred worth. We welcome, include, and affirm each individual, no matter their gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, who are also of every age, race, ethnicity, nationality, language, physical and intellectual ability, neurodiversity, education, family structure, and of every economic, marital, and social status and faith tradition, and so much more. Before we move from this statement of inclusion, I'd like to point out the two sections that are underlined. First, faith tradition. This statement is in reference to people who choose to participate in the life of the church, to attend our services and our events. But of course, faith tradition refers to somebody's faith background, their religious background. But baptism implies that a person chooses to be a Christian, to follow the ways of Christ. The other section has to do with emphasizing that we do not discriminate on the basis of intellectual capacity or educational achievement. Even persons who have mental or physical disabilities or mental health conditions are not to be denied baptism, whether we are considering a baptism for a child with Down syndrome or one that is along the autism spectrum, perhaps an adult suffering from severe stages of dementia. All these conditions and so many more like them could keep the candidate from articulating comprehensively the vows of baptism. But these physical, mental, emotional, and intellectual limitations should not be barriers to baptism. In these such cases, the baptismal covenant ritual number 2 will be used, the ritual for those who cannot answer for themselves, in which case parents, spouses, or other types of guardians will take the vows for their sake. Provision number 2. The pastor has the pastoral responsibility to discern all baptismal requests, and an approval will be based on these conditions that are met. Number 1, that the candidate displays a desire to be a committed member of this local church, that there is a commitment to the preparation process and requirements that take place before baptism. 3, that all beliefs from the candidate are all compatible with the essentials of Christian teaching as understood by the United Methodist Church. And lastly, by the end of the baptismal preparation, the individual is found ready for commitment and prepared to live out to the best of their abilities the baptismal covenant. Of course, the candidate may choose to delay their own baptism to ensure better preparation and spiritual maturity. Provision number 3. All baptisms are performed by using water, whether by dipping, sprinkling, pouring, or full submersion. And it's done in the name of the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All baptisms are performed before the congregation during a worship service. If a baptism is to take place outside the worship space and the worship time, then a duly announced invitation to the entire congregation must be given. The ritual remains the same even when held outside the church facilities. No request for a private baptism can be accepted, and this includes requests for small gatherings of just friends and family. But of course, emergency situations are the exception. Requests for full submersion will be granted, whether it's in a swimming pool, a lake, or a creek, but to note that this pastor does not know how to swim, and so it would have to be the shallow end of said swimming pool, lake, or creek, or some other body of water. We do not provide full immersion baptisms inside the sanctuary, as we ourselves do not have the equipment to do so, unless, of course, the people requesting such a full submersion in the sanctuary will have connections to those who might have perhaps an animal feeding trough or something similar. No baptisms can be conducted at Port Edwards United Methodist Church or in the name of Port Edwards United Methodist Church by another clergy person without the approval of the current pastor. But if you do desire a second person to assist me, I will be happy to discuss that. Provision number 4. There are no fees for the preparation or performance of any baptism. Provision number 5. No baptism will be granted if the candidate is already duly baptized. The amount of water, the way it was applied, the age of the individual at the time of baptism, the person who administered it, or the location, whether it was in a different denomination. Even if that baptism was under abnormal circumstances performed by someone who was not licensed or ordained, these terms do not make a baptism invalid, and we would accept that as a real baptism, and therefore we would not baptize someone a second time. Provision number 6. There are 4 traditional baptismal Sundays every year. These 4 dates are the preferred dates for performing baptisms during the worship service. The first is the Baptism of the Lord Sunday, which falls on either the second or third Sunday in January. Easter Sunday, which usually falls in March or April. Pentecost Sunday, which usually is in May or June. World Communion Sunday, which is the first Sunday in October. But another possible date could be All Saints Sunday, which is the first Sunday in November. And of course, any date related to Christmas would be acceptable. If none of these preferred dates work for you, we will be able to use another date that is suitable for you and convenient for those you wish to attend. Please be aware that due to preparation requirements, baptism probably cannot be scheduled within a month. A candidate may be asked to wear a special baptismal robe. Oftentimes, baptismal gowns are used, particularly if they are passed down from generation to generation. Or family members can present the candidate with new clothes, which is a tradition in some places. But the church will be providing the baptismal candidate a certificate of baptism, and the candidate will also be presented with a candle. You may provide your own photographer for the ceremony, or we can arrange for someone in the church to take photos. Your entire family and friends may have photos after the service, but during the service, it's best to limit those standing at the baptismal font to just the closest family members, because too many people up front can detract from the person being baptized. And we try not to stop the service to take photos, but photo opportunities are always welcome after the service. The United Methodist definition of youth is ages 13 through 18. Therefore, the youngest a person can be baptized at their own request, and to be a candidate for those who can answer for themselves, is the age of 13, at the youngest. In terms of school grade, it would be around 7th grade at the youngest. The preferred youngest age is actually 14 or 15, with a child enrolled in the 8th grade. This is also the same age preferred that a youth can enroll in Port Edwards youth confirmation, with confirmation completed at the end of their 8th grade year. But even high schoolers, being under the age of 18, can take part in our youth confirmation. The other baptismal video found on our YouTube channel may be useful for any youth to watch. These videos would be better suited for youth ages 16, 17, and 18, and I am referring to the baptismal module of our discipleship pathway, the module dedicated to baptism titled By Water and the Spirit. For our purposes, whether an 18-year-old is considered a youth or an adult will be determined by if they are still in high school at the time. Seniors in high school, whatever their age, would be considered a youth. Youth confirmation is for any youth, whether they have been baptized in infancy or adolescence, as well as any who desire to be baptized at the end of youth confirmation. Now, a note here, of course, to any parent to know this is true, youth is a very tricky age. They are beginning to make their own choices, and more responsibilities are granted to them. However, they are still largely under the supervision and guidance of their parents and other adults. It is not wise to wait for a youth to want to do youth confirmation. In many cases, they might not know what confirmation is, or what baptism is, for that matter. It does require the will of the parents too, and the willingness of parents to walk beside them during this journey. Parents need to have a conversation with their child about the importance and purpose of confirmation and baptism before they enroll. Scheduling a session with me would be a good choice. I would need sufficient evidence that the child is willing to go through confirmation themselves and has a confident grasp on what the course is about, even as the course itself will teach them what it's about. It is hard to allow a youth to fulfill the requirements of confirmation if they don't want to be there at all. A youth will retain very little if they are not engaged. So it requires both the guidance of the parents and willingness of the youth to be enrolled in the youth confirmation course. But to help your child, find a helpful YouTube video about confirmation from a United Methodist source, including perhaps videos from Chuck Knows Church. These short videos will be good for your child to watch. It is difficult in a video like this to dive into specifics of a confirmation course, as these requirements may change from year to year. The pastor is in charge of the programming and requirements for confirmation, and there may be many adaptations along the way. There are no official denominational requirements except that the local pastor is in charge of overseeing the education of the children and youth of the parish and seeing that they are brought to confirmation and/or baptism. Youth confirmation will be largely based on Cokesbury's Confirm curriculum, which is the official curriculum for United Methodists. The course is one full school year, starting in September and ending around May or June, often having Confirmation Sunday on Pentecost Sunday, a date which does move around a little bit according to the date of Easter. The Confirm curriculum is best suited for 8th graders or older. In addition to the regular sessions led by myself and a rotation of church members, there will be requirements involving community service projects, being a worship leader in some capacity on a Sunday morning, attending another United Methodist church service, and the service of another Christian denomination, and a weekend retreat at one of our Wisconsin United Methodist camps. Now that was all for youth confirmation. The United Methodist definition of adult is age 18 and older and out of high school. Technically, our definition of young adult is 19 through 30, but for our purposes here, young adults are adults. Many do not associate adulthood with confirmation, but perhaps adult membership classes. At Port Edwards United Methodist Church, any young adult or adult that desires to be baptized or were baptized in their infancy or adolescence and did not get the chance to be confirmed as a youth, well, they will go through our adult version of confirmation. This is the age-appropriate adaptation of youth confirmation. The adult confirmation course at Port Edwards United Methodist Church is titled Discipleship Pathway. It is a course involving 8 modules or units, each based around a single topic or theme. It is a single curriculum that I, Pastor Caleb, have developed based on many reputable United Methodist resources. Please watch our video on our YouTube channel titled Discipleship Pathway, an Overview for more details. Additional requirements for adult confirmation course will be similar to the youth confirmation course. Whether through the youth confirmation course or the adult discipleship pathway course, these are how we become professing members in the church. For at the end of both courses, you profess your faith publicly. Additionally, one becomes a voting and serving member of the local church and a voting member of the denomination as well. A voting member or professing member becomes more than a recipient of the church's ministry, but becomes responsible now for that church's ministry. They can serve on teams and committees as well as speak on behalf of the local church. Professing membership, although it begins with a personal commitment of faith and one's own public profession, this is the church's endorsement of that faith. That membership can be transferred or withdrawn. It can also be withdrawn under charges. Now that sounds perhaps like a threat. And it's strange, bizarre that a church could call members up on charges. Now this status is very rarely used in our denomination, but it is there. And it should never be used as a threat, and it is not mentioned here as a threat. Instead, it should come as a comfort to anyone who wonders what happens when a member of the church has trouble with accountability, or what happens when a member becomes simply harmful to the church community or to individuals in the church. Are they stuck with this forever? Is that the Christian thing to do, is to let the harm continue and not to remove anyone? But there are mechanisms in place for the removal of harmful members. Membership can be removed due to negligence, and when considering inactive members, the proper protocol is for the church to reach out to such members. If we do not get a response after a 2-year period, one's membership will be removed by action of our annual charge conference. This isn't done perfectly in all places, but if somebody is looking at another church, it's always the best thing to make the church aware of somebody's intention. Everything we have talked about so far pertains to those who have not yet been baptized and or confirmed, whether as a youth or adult. Baptism makes you a baptized member of the church, and confirmation makes you a professing member of the church. But if you are already a member of another church, be it another United Methodist church or another church of another denomination, and you wish to now join Port Edwards United Methodist Church, then please watch our video titled Transferring Membership to Port Edwards United Methodist Church, which will emphasize the process of transferring membership between churches.